and I hate to bring up more bad talk, but we're going to actually talk here a little bit of basketball. And whew, I don't know what happened last night. Just obviously the best player in the SEC, in Darius Acuff, comes in, has a great game. What did you make overall of Texas getting blown off the floor there by Arkansas?
Yeah, they usually don't do that. Ever since they started, and we've been talking for a while about how this team's turned things around. They started in the SEC 0-2 and had that bad loss at home to Mississippi State. It was close, went to OT, and then they got run off the floor by Tennessee. Ever since then, most of their games have been really competitive. So I was thinking last night, I didn't know what the line was, but I thought Texas would hang in there and they'd have a decent chance to win because they've had some really good marquee moments on the road this season. And, man, just from the jump, the energy Arkansas played with. Texas is a team that folds. And Sean Miller said that when they lost at home to Florida. They were hanging with the Gators the entire game until the 7-minute mark. And then it was a 23-3 run to finish. And Sean Miller, who's never hesitant to bash on his team, which I always appreciate, was we folded down the stretch. And, I was that might be harsh because it's Florida. They're one of the best teams. But last night watching them, Arkansas came out and had 3 dunks right away, a couple alley-oops, and the crowd was getting into it. And Texas just totally folded. And this is going to sound mean, but when Texas was getting crushed, I was like, oh, this is going to be a fire post-game press conference because I was waiting for who Sean Miller was going to call out. And his target last night was Jordan Pope, who I don't blame him. He had 4 fouls and very few minutes of play, no points. So he was just Jordan Pope didn't want to play tonight. It was clear he had no interest in playing. So that was kind of the vibe from Texas. They just seemed disinterested last night.
No, I got something for you. So yesterday when we were talking about this matchup, and one of the matchups that I was looking at were the 2 bigs. And we could talk about Vukatitis and probably a first half he would like to forget, getting dunked on and then getting blocked twice. So we won't talk about that. I won't be too mean to you. But the other matchup that I personally was interested in was Dalen Swain going up against Billy Richmond, who is a really good defender. Did that matchup go just about as you expected it to go with, I believe, Dalen Swain picking up 16 points last night?
This is what we've talked about with Dalen Swain. Sometimes he has 16, 20 points, but it doesn't feel like he's made a major impact on the game. And as good as he's been this year, and I was giving him comps to some NBA players earlier in the season, maybe a couple weeks ago, to me, one of the things he's missing is that alpha mentality that a lot of other SEC players have. And I don't know if the only player on Texas that really might have it is a little bit of Tremont Mark, but he's so quiet on the floor. Jordan Pope can get that where he's just I'm shooting no matter what, this is my time. Dalen Swain does not necessarily have that, which is not maybe the worst thing as you look to play at the next level because he's not going to be, you're 1 or 2 scorer. He'll probably be more of a complimentary piece. But for this Texas team, he's the best player, and he's got to be more aggressive. Modest Vukatitis, the offense runs through him so much, and Swain will get his points, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of plays through him or for him. He just is able to kind of weave through. So I at this point of the season, I don't know how much they can change. Their defense is terrible. It's been terrible all season long, but I just think he needs to be way more aggressive and make it feel with 5 minutes left in the game, wow, this game has run through Dalen Swain, where even on his best games of the year, I've only felt that once or twice.
Yeah, no, and I feel on this show today, we've talked a lot about just within the whole SEC, some of the teams that have had a lot of inconsistencies. And I feel Texas is another great example of an extremely inconsistent team. Do you feel at this point in the season, mentally, they're almost just beaten down?
Yeah, beaten down from their head coach yelling at them every single week, which I can't blame them. But yeah, during their 6-game win streak, I believe it got to, there started to be some real belief around the program. Man, this is a lot of consistency. 6 games in a row hasn't been done in Texas in over a decade and all these things. So, but to come out the way they have as of late has been really disheartening from a Texas perspective. And it's kind of put a cap on where I think, and a lot of people think this team can go because they're talented, but man, it just, as you said, they're inconsistent and they don't have anybody that can just totally take over a game unless it's really Jordan Pope, which he can do that think once a year. And all the things you look for in a great tournament team, Texas has maybe 1 or 2 of those pieces. But yeah, I think there's a limit to how good this team can be. And if you just look in a vacuum, you're okay, a team that won 6 straight SEC games. I don't know how many teams in the conference could say that. Maybe 3 or 4. You're like, that team maybe has Final Four potential.
Mm-hmm.
I think Texas would have an extremely hard time getting to the Sweet 16 because they're probably going to be anywhere from like an 8 to a 10 depending on how these next couple of weeks go. I could certainly see them winning an early round game, a first round game, but to beat it would have to be one of the top 12 teams in the country, presumably. I do not think they can do that, especially if Florida is like a 2 or 3. Man, they're going to have a tough time advancing to the second weekend.
Yeah, no question. We've seen this Oklahoma team play very, very strong here, towards the end of the season. They're playing for Porter Moser really hard. Is there any sense of maybe, hey, we get through the end here, we win a game or two in the SEC? Like, is there a sense that they can generally like create momentum? Or is there confidence based on, as you mentioned, that 6-game winning streak and just saying, hey, we could turn it on and be that team that won those 6 games?
I think they've been pretty good at that this year, Gerhard, and like being able to flip the switch and like look terrible one game and then kind of change it around and be good the next. So I don't know if it's necessarily gaining momentum. Like, to me, if they lose against Oklahoma and then they lose in the first round of the SEC tournament, obviously bad. But, I still think they should be a tournament team, in my opinion. 9 wins in the SEC and some marquee ones, including on the road against some good teams like Alabama. I think they should be in and not have to play in the first 4. And I think they could kind of flip the switch like that and be ready for the NCAA tournament. With that being said, I don't know how important the different seeding is between like getting like an 8 or a 9 or a 10.
Right.
I just think the team could certainly figure some things out as of late because there's been some troubling signs in these last couple of games where when adversities come their way in a lot of these games, they really have not met it with any sort of force and they've just kind of given in. So that's, to me, is what I think you would need to see, because last year for Texas, they were, in my opinion, without question, a worse team. They had that guy that you could go to at all times in Trey Johnson, but they had nothing really complimentary around him. But in the tournament, when they got Kendall Weaver back, I think they were outside looking in for the NCAA tournament. But they won, I think it was 3 games, and they beat some really good teams, and they were playing their best basketball of the season. And they had momentum the tournament, but then they lost in the first 4 to Sean Miller's Xavier team. So how much is that really worth once you get to the actual dance?